Alright, Dallas Crochane here again. Just want to make this video on how we can actually empower our Aboriginal youth. Now, if that question is lingering in your mind, should be on your mind right now, that how can we get our Aboriginal youth to empower themselves, take responsibility for their lives, and produce wealth. And after studying this for over 5 years, I've read over 200 books on psychology, wealth, economics, success, personal development, self-actualization. I found common characteristics, common themes that run through each and every one. Now, I was able to actually condense these into small, easy to understand principles. Now, the one major principle that I found just recently was that there's this idea of being creates doing. Now everyone focuses on the doing, get an education, get off drugs, do this, do that. And that's a very ineffective approach, as millions of dollars in taxpayers' money has proven here in Canada. That all these programs designed to get us jobs, get us education, get us off drugs do not work. Now Robert Ellerton has a logical levels of change model, basically stating that trying to change someone's behaviors by giving them new behaviors or giving them new conditions, they do not help. They do not produce any change. If you want to change someone, you have to focus on their values, beliefs, paradigms, their purpose, their identity, their spirituality, their reality. Now, I developed my own models, my own system, and ways of actually producing this wealth naturally from within. Now, being creates doing. Now, the idea behind that is that when you're in a negative state of being, right, when you have these depressing thoughts, you feel down about life, you always think negative thoughts. And when you try to change it, you try to think positively, it never works, never seems to work. But once you get out of that negative state and you're in a happy state, you start thinking positive thoughts again. You start thinking, like, what was I thinking before? Like, I don't believe that stuff now. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Being creates doing. If you're in a happy state, you think happy thoughts. If you're in a negative state, you think negative thoughts. And I know that for a fact after turning my life around and becoming, more confident, more successful in my own life, I found that it's very easy to revert back to those old states of being. And once I get into those states, I feel down about life. I start thinking the same thoughts I used to think 5 years ago. But next day, when things change and I'm in a different state of being, that I don't think those thoughts anymore. I'm like, what was I thinking? That's stupid, So if we want to create happiness and we want to create wealth and responsibility, we have to find out how to access those states of being within ourselves. Now, these states are automatic. They're controlled by our subconscious minds. Now, our conscious minds are, all the thoughts that we think, that we're aware of. And our subconscious mind is where our thoughts go when we're done thinking them. When we're no longer thinking them, our thoughts get stored as memories in our subconscious mind. Everything from childhood, every experience that we learn gets automatically stored there. And the thing about our subconscious mind is that it controls every automatic bodily function. It controls our digestive system, our heartbeat, and body temperature. So every idea, every command within our subconscious mind gets carried out automatically and produces the results and behaviors in our bodies. Now, if we have our beliefs and our values are subconscious, our thoughts about ourselves and our reality are subconscious. They're automatic. We don't have to think about them. It's like learning how to ride a bike. Once you learn how and you never forget, it becomes automatic. You no longer have to think about it. Other subconscious behaviors include when you're driving, you kind of zone out. And then you come to like 10 minutes later, you're still on the road, you're still fine, It's like you're on autopilot and your mind was driving for you while your thoughts were elsewhere, your conscious mind was elsewhere. So I found ways we can actually alter old negative beliefs within our subconscious, and that will translate into the behaviors. Those states of being will be then triggered. There's two ways of changing people. You can add new information, which is very ineffective. Dr. David Burns reported that insight does not produce change. And the second, more effective way, the most effective way, is to eliminate old information. Get rid of old information. And then implant with new information. So our subconscious mind controls our bodily functions, and they access those states of feeling within us. For example, it's not. And one thing I want to make clear is that it's not the event that creates how we feel. It's our thoughts about them that creates the emotions. Shakespeare says that nothing is neither good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And Nietzsche's, I think he quoted that people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. So how does this translate? Well, it's not the events that create how we feel. It's not our life conditions that creates how we feel. It's our thoughts about them that have been programmed since birth. Subconscious thoughts that automatically get triggered once we experience some certain condition. So it just seems like the condition creates our feelings, but really that process became automatic. One way to clearly explain this is if, for example, you're blindfolded and you're told to walk in a straight line. You know, you do so confidently, right? But if they take off your blindfold and you look back and you realize that you just walked across 40 stories in the air, a thin platform about this big, all of a sudden your mind will then access the state of fear because it recognizes the need for it to protect you. That all of a sudden the whole paradigm of what you just did, your thoughts about it just suddenly changed. And if they say, okay, we're going to blindfold you again, you do the same thing again, you'll be like, no way. Because your mind is accessing the state of fear within you and producing the behaviors and results that match it. Because your mind recognizes the need for it. So now this is why it's important that we change those subconscious thoughts. And we give ourselves new thoughts. We visualize clearly exactly what we want, how we'd feel when we get it. And if we do that in detail, we give our subconscious new orders. And they carry them out automatically. There's something called the reticular activation system, RAS for short, that once your mind makes something important, it finds anything related to that idea. Your subconscious automatically shows you to say, hey, check that out over there, notice that, notice that. This helped us, avoid dangerous animals and dangerous situations. But it works against us when we train our subconscious mind to see negativity in our lives, to see lack, to see suffering. And then when we see that, it triggers those states of being again, and we start thinking negative thoughts. Now, there's something preventing our thoughts from becoming subconscious beliefs, and that's called the critical factor. And the critical factor is basically the thing that prevents us from believing something that isn't true. For example, if someone says, oh, you can fly, jump off this building, right? You're not going to believe it because your critical factor will say, hey, that's not true. So when we try to change our beliefs, saying, oh, I'm happy, I'm prosperous, or whatever, it's trying to think those thoughts. It does not produce change because the critical factor is in the way, saying, no, all these other subconscious beliefs says it's not, so I'm not going to do it. So in order to change that, we have to eliminate our old behaviors and implant new ones. And when we do that, when we give our mind new orders, that once our mind recognizes the need to access those states of joyfulness, of prosperity, of opportunity centered paradigm, that our mind will automatically give us access to faculties that we normally don't have access to, talents and that. When a way to clearly explain this is when we're presented with a life or death situation, when our life is threatened, our minds recognize the need to give us a new emotional state, which is that fight or flight mode, adrenaline. Our bodies become more faster, we become stronger, and we can run faster and further than we normally could. So our states of being controls what we do and how we do it. Now, I found ways to actually go inside and past our critical factor and to change those beliefs within us so that they naturally produce those results. And so our efforts become automatic. Motivation becomes automatic. Ideas start flowing into our mind that we normally wouldn't have thought of because our mind recognizes the need for it and gives us exactly what we order. So I'm going to go more into depth in that later, and I'm going to make some more videos about how Aboriginals can actually change this, going back to our traditional ways, our traditional beliefs and teachings. And thank you for viewing, and I hope you stay tuned.